So I think we're winding down the podcast for the day, but certainly leaving possibly the best till last. Very, very warm welcome to Danny Spillmann from Esri Global. Welcome, Danny.
Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. Tell me, what brings you this side from stateside, the Lone Star State, all the way via Dubai, if I understood correctly, and in as a very long dog leg. Tell me, what brings you here?
Well, Patrick approached me about 6 months ago and asked me to come down and present at his user conference. And I'd been here before, and I thought, but what a great opportunity to come back to the area. I actually didn't get to see a whole lot of it when I was here last time. And for me, I get to travel around the world, and I never want to miss out an opportunity to see a place like this.
Well, it's just unfortunate that the mist is on the mountain there, but the Drakensberg is in the background there. It really is great to have you here. You gave a hugely inspiring keynote speech yesterday morning to kick off the first full day. Tell us a bit about what the key points and messages of your presentation yesterday were.
Oh, yeah, I'd love to. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's great to be here on your podcast. I watched some of them, and they're riveting to hear the customer stories and their experiences using GIS and mapping to help them improve the work that they're doing. When you see so many customers around the world, coming to them and then talking to them and trying to get them re-energized or re-excited about what they've been doing for maybe 2 years or 5 years or 30 years, how do you get people really thinking about the work that they're doing is really having an impact in the world? And sometimes when you get into your day job and you're doing the same things over and over again, having someone come up and really represent back to them the work that they've been doing is probably the first thing that I always try to get across in these presentations. It's like, you are seen, the work that you're doing is having impact, and the world needs you to do more of that, and you're going to actually make this place a much better place. And once I kind of get people buying in that, understanding the work that they're doing is important, then of course I'm going to talk a little bit about Esri, talk a little bit about our direction, a little bit about where we're headed from a technology company, but it's also trying to get them not concerned about some of the changes. I think what Toby said on the first day was very interesting. Change has always happened, and even the workflows that people are doing, how they do it may change, but the work and the process that goes into it won't change. And I think to reiterate that, see some of the new ideas, get them thinking, get them excited, so that when they do get back, they're really energized to really keep doing the work that they're doing.
I think I said to you before we came on, we all need the wow factor. We all need that moment which is, can do, and here's something, a new way to think about something, or to be reminded what you have done, and that's the key point that you're making. What is it that you do within the organization? What's your sort of strategic purpose and approach that you're doing there from the States?
From the States, yeah, sure. Well, I've been at Esri since 1998. I actually graduated from university with a planning degree.
We have a bona fide urban planner here who apparently has never spent a day being a planner. I'm not sure how that works.
I've actually never planned. I actually got a degree in geography and computer science. So I was destined, I think.
I was going to say, there you were in GIS all the way.
Yeah, I was totally going to be in GIS. There weren't many geography students that were also studying computer science. I worked in the field, actually. I worked for an appraisal land parcel tax agency for a year or two. Then I went and worked for an insurance company, doing GIS work and mapping where all their portfolio was and dealing with emergencies and hurricanes and policy evaluations. But then quickly I realized that I liked working with the technology and I really wanted to join Esri. So I joined Esri in 1998 as a technical person, doing demos, talking about the technology, doing some training, and I realized very quickly that I was not good at that. And I realized I was much better at actually talking about software, talking about value, and so I moved roles into more of a customer-facing role, and that's really where I began my career of meeting with individuals, meeting with organizations, and talking about business value. The reason that brought me here to South Africa is working with a large mining company at the time. And they were thinking about switching over. They decided to come over to Esri, and from there, my career grew. I took on other roles, but now my role is I oversee all of our business development teams around the world. And between the two of us, myself and my colleague Richard Cook back in the States, we really oversee all of our business, from our distributors, from our partners, and to all of our teams that are working with our customers every day to make sure they're getting the support and advice and engagement that they need to be successful.
sounds like that reskilling, repurposing of the planner has continued even within Esri and so
It has.
forth.
It's interesting. People ask me all the time, what do I do with my career? You can watch people's careers here and you're just like amazed at what they've done. And people are constantly evolving and changing and taking different paths. You never know. When I joined Esri almost 30 years ago, I never thought this would be the role that I'm in. And maybe I could be a planner one day. Go back and actually start.
We'll always welcome you. Just show us your bona fides. Just show us your bona fides. It's interesting you talk about the mining. There was one of the presentations yesterday that I attended was talking about some of the mining industry, and I guess that's has been one of the big client bases from a private sector point of view has been the mining industry, and obviously that whole subterranean side of it. Where are you prospecting, and how do you start to understand? Tell me a bit about your experience in that, and we were talking about. A lot of what we've seen in the conference so far has been above surface. And I was saying one thing I've missed, and I'm sure it's there, is the subterranean side, which includes mining, includes utility services.
Everything. There's a whole world that happens beneath the ground. And we do have a lot of customers in petroleum and mining, even below the ocean, trying to map the ocean seafloor. I would say in mining and petroleum, it's still the same concept of where, but you're just looking beneath the surface. And believe it or not, the difference between a mining company and an oil company is really the size of hole that they drill.
Fair enough.
And, helping them use our technology. But that's one aspect of it, the exploration part. But what's interesting about these organizations is that they actually are bringing a very environmental focus to it. And whether you're pro those things or not, the work that they're doing really runs the world. We need a lot of those minerals, and we need that petroleum, and we need those things. And as much as we move to alternative energies that'll be, subsidizing some of the other stuff, we also got to realize that we need to leave a very positive impact on the environment and our world. And I think that's where Esri and GIS really helps those organizations as well. It's one thing to know where it's at, but it's another thing that we have the ways to kind of environmentally do this in a way that protects the earth.
I mean, again, good point. I mean, many of the clients that you may have as Esri globally, some of these are known offenders in the environmental space. But I'm guessing that the technology, the data that's available, allow you to start thinking about risk assurance and the proactive addressing of some of these challenges. Is this something that you've seen a fundamental change over time?
100%. It's very interesting too. And look, I've known a lot of people in the industry that work in those things, and they are probably some of the most environmental conscious people I've ever met. And they understand that the pressure and the risk that they're under in the business that they do. And it's positive knowing that there are people in those organizations that are responsible for those activities, but yet they're taking the right approach to do it in an environmental sensitive way. And I know a lot of your listeners maybe never get an opportunity to listen or meet these people, but I can tell you firsthand that they truly care about what they're doing and trying to do it in the best way possible.
Well, that's always encouraging to hear. And I say, marrying the passion with the tech, we can only go further in that regard. What have you seen, what have you heard over the last 24 hours or so since you've arrived that inspired you from within the South African context? It's always great to hear when we have guests from overseas about beyond the landscape. What are you enjoying about the people and the work that's being done here?
I sat in a couple of the sessions like you did yesterday, and really understanding, here we are, thousands and thousands of miles away from the U.S. where a lot of the software is developed. You think you'd fly all the way down here and they would be behind where we're at right now. And what I saw yesterday was some of the most advanced use cases of ArcGIS. And it really warms my heart a little bit because we may talk about it, we get up on stage, we get people excited, but are they actually putting it into practice? And what I saw yesterday from the utility company that was leveraging the newest version of the utility network to another organization that was mapping in complete 3D, and the drone stuff that we saw in the plenary and the full reality mesh, if I would say anything, I would say that this region of the world is probably one of the advanced user bases that I've ever seen, and I leave here truly impressed with the work that's being done here.
Well, we'll take that.
Yeah,
we'll take that.
Amazing,
and we appreciate.
I was listening while you were doing some of the other sessions today, and just hearing them from different walks of life and different businesses and different things that they are doing, and every one of them knew exactly what they were talking about. They knew exactly about the technology. They understood the business value that they were delivering, and I can't wait to listen to them all once they're complete.
Well, there's going to be you can have a lot to listen to on the way back. I suspect.
I got a long flight, so I'm looking forward. I may download all of them, and I'll listen to them.
Well, there's even more if you go into the background, and in terms of where to next for you, Danny. In terms of we chatted last night. You do a lot of traveling. You've got some more travel coming up. But where are you going to be headed after South Africa? What's the rest of the year look like for you? And again, what's the focus of your efforts and attention in the coming months?
Yeah, for me, it's for in the U.S. we're coming to the end of the year. There's a lot of excitement about making sure that we finish strong and support our customers. There's lots of things that are ongoing. For me, I do travel the world a lot, and I get out and I see our customers. And what I'm seeing is just truly that ArcGIS is moving from a back office technology to a leading enterprise technology. And it's the same thing that you think about a Microsoft or a Google or an SAP or Salesforce. You have to put Esri in that same expectation. Now, I would say that we may do that with a different purpose in mind. We think of ourselves as a very purpose-driven organization. We're very community-driven. We're very focused on our users. And for me, the rest of the year and ongoing into next year is just continue to watch and help them understand how the technology is evolving, how leadership and executives are starting to understand the value of spatial, and also making sure that our user community understands that what they're seeing in AI and the change happening in the world, that they're actually going to be a leading force of adoption of AI that really helps democratize the use of GIS around the world. I truly think large language models, the way that people are going to interact, they're going to think about things spatially, just like you do when you go to this local coffee shop or you go to the right store. You navigate in your head spatially. And now with this new technology, you're going to be able to ask those questions, but still behind the scenes is going to be GIS professionals that are leading the way, that are building the models and the tools that you need to be able to do that.
You made a very nice comment yesterday, and I'll try and edit it in, but you were saying, I'm a geographer and I'm not going anywhere. Yeah. I thought that was a very profound sort of...
Yesterday I said, I'm a GIS professional. I'm proud to be around this group that's here, and I'm not going anywhere. I'm looking forward to watching what they do.
And I think you threw out it wasn't even a challenge. It was, I suspect many of you in this room are going to be at the forefront of that as well. There's something along those lines of like this community
going to lead the change.
Is a leadership group. Right?
Not only are they going to go through a change, but they're going to lead the change. And I saw this week that there's a group of individuals here that are ready to lead that change.
Fantastic. One last question I do need to ask you, Danny, because we need to bring it to a wrap. This digital twin thing. Now, forgive the cynic in me, which is that we've seen some amazing examples, and we'll showcase some of that hopefully within this content. Where do people start? If somebody is watching this from a metro in South Africa, from a municipality, or just a small community group who's managed to get hold of this and say, yeah, I keep hearing this digital twin thing. What is it? B, where do I start? And 3, why would I do it? Maybe is that a way to bring this conversation to a conclusion around this particular issue of the digital twin?
You know what I would say? I would say that almost every user here already has a digital twin. Now there's some real flashy ones, kind of some of the stuff that we
Boston.
Boston. Yes, because this is what really makes things exciting. This is actually the city of Boston. This is GIS today. Full-blown reality capture of the city of Boston. Now, but it's not just that. It's also integrating GIS data right on top of it. All of the road networks. Understanding how things are connected together. But as you zoom in, you can actually come into this new building that actually has the BIM drawing and all of the data sets that go about creating a building represented in a single vision, in a single view. You can understand the different floor plans and how things are integrated there. At the same time, you can understand when different buildings and different features were created in the city. Everything you're seeing here is in ArcGIS. But it's not just that. You can also zoom in and see the infrastructure of the city. How different water lines, how the electric lines, how all of that is run throughout that city. And as it zooms in more, we can start to understand different taxing rules within buildings. So you can see the higher up you are, the more tax you may pay, the higher appraised value. But this is where it really gets exciting. Integrating real-time IoT sensors into the living digital twin, where now you can make real decisions and understand what's happening in real time within that city. But as all of you know, the city never stays still. You're constantly redesigning, replanning, reconstructing different areas of the city. And people want to know what it's going to look like, what that experience is going to be like. And at the end of the day, you're creating game-like situations of what your city will look like in 2 or 5 or 10 years from now.
Very cool.
But there's no one that tells you that a 2D map and a 2D representation of your data is not a digital twin. I think what you're going to see is different ways to model cities or businesses or organizations. And maybe the early levels to that will be 2D representation of the twin. What you're starting to see now is more 3D representation of the twin, more reality, of satellite flyovers or drones that are capturing true reality. And then a third level of that may be building real in-time applications like permitting or IoT sensors that actually begin to really bring that twin to life. It was interesting at an event I was at not too long ago. Someone came by one of our stands and they said, we really want to get started in this 3D stuff. We already have it. And inside of our tools was a way for them to represent their data into 3D features. And when they walked back, we'd already created their whole city in 3D.
Incredible. And it's the speed, right?
It's the speed. It's just the world is becoming 3D. And we see things in 3D, we interact in 3D, and people are starting to want to see the maps and the apps that they use in 3D. And I think when you ask me what's next in the digital twin, I would say I would encourage everyone to think about taking their 2D to 3D. And then once you do that, then the number of applications, the people that want to interact with it because they see what they see in the real world. And now when you have that 3D representation in an app or whatever it is, they relate so much better, and it's just going to continue to drive, I think, this whole idea of a living digital twin.
I'm chuckling and sort of smiling inside because I think it was around 2009, 2010, somewhere around there, somewhere around the World Cup in 2010. We were trying in Joburg to look at what the future of Joburg looked like along some transportation corridors where we wanted to significantly densify. And I think Oxene was a thing then, and the whole 3D extrude by X, and so you had this sort of Manhattan happening. I'm laughing because it was so crude, but it served the purpose then. Yeah. And now what we're seeing is the advancement of that to the level of rendering and detail, which is, as Stuart Martin would say, how much is enough? Because a lot of this is enough now. And it's perfect in terms of its rendering, in terms of the 3D. It's come so far, and it still serves a purpose. But the ability now to go into more connection points, to more communities, to more decision makers, because of the platforms that are available. I think that's what's really excited me over this last couple of days. That's what I'm taking away.
I'm telling you that reality capture is probably some of the fastest moving technology. I got a video during the night. And they had flown our campus back in California. There's a new technology called Gaussian splats, which is a new way to render data at a much higher resolution than what you're seeing right now. Like you're literally able to almost see bolts on top of the solar panel that was flown from a drone. And you start thinking about that, you're going to know.
That's too much.
But, that's what it's taking right now. It's truly modeling what's there. It's going to be safety because you may not need to send someone up onto the roof. It could be understanding. Maybe you see one of the solar panels is cracked. You start to understand these workflows that are going to drive from this higher resolution without having to send people up into
high-risk areas, for example.
Areas.
What a pleasure. Yeah. I can't let you go without asking you about the Lone Star State and the Cowboys.
the
Cowboys
Dallas Cowboys.
territory.
Yep.
Are they playing well, or
They are not playing
Are they
well.
playing lousy?
They are playing lousy.
But you
So
can't get relegated in that space.
You
right?
cannot get relegated.
So you
and,
just turn over and get the first draft next time around.
I'm
yeah?
a hardcore fan in week 1, and then week 2 I'm back to watching Premier League. So,
Well, one day I hope to get to see. Was it the tailgating at the beginning of the game?
tailgate. They don't tailgate here.
We just call it braying in the park, braying in the car park and whatever. I think that's the tailgating. But thank you, Danny. Enjoy the rest of your time with us. Thank you for sharing and inspiring us. Keep doing what you're doing, and hopefully in a couple of years' time, there's more South African wisdom we can impart back to you, and you can go and tell the people around the world what a great job the team are doing down here.
It's great. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed our time talking this morning.
Cheers, Danny. Look after yourself.
Talk to you soon.